Let's move to our wild card predictions. Interesting games this week. So we have 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and then 1 on Monday. Saturday games, Houston's been playing the 3:30 slot. I think 8 of the last 10 years or so, they've been at the 3:30 slot on the Saturday in the wild card round. Chargers at Houston. Chargers favored by 3. Chargers, Houston's kind of stumbling into the playoffs. I know they played their starters last week, and they still weren't fantastic against the Titans, who are now the number 1 overall pick. Chargers, Quentin Johnson had his best game probably of his career. Perfect timing, get the confidence up, 134 yards, I think 10 catches and a touchdown. I'm not sure if he actually had a touchdown, but I know
I think in more than 10 catches.
I think it was 13 catches on 14 targets, which he's been struggling with drops. So that's a perfect timing for the Chargers. How do you see this one playing out? I think it's actually a very interesting game. And although I have a bet on one of these teams, this game could get pretty weird, I think.
I think that this is near must-win for Justin Herbert. Supposed to be a superstar quarterback. Haven't won a game yet. Your other playoff game, you blew like a 27-point lead. You're facing a Texans team that's struggling. I think the Chargers have a better team than the Texans right now, especially that the Texans, their weapons are only Nico Collins and Joe Mixon. They don't have a good O-line. They do have a pretty good secondary, but I still think that Chargers should be able to be comfortable offensively. So I think this is like near must win for Justin Herbert, or really like, come on, you got to beat someone. But I think the Chargers win. I think it's a little close, but I think the Chargers kind of like have control throughout. I actually wrote score predictions for each game. 23-17. I have Chargers, a couple touchdowns, a few field goals. If they don't win, then the next year Herbert has to go insane because he needs a win. He needs a playoff win, and it just seems right that he would get it.
Yeah, I have the Chargers in this one as well. I have 20-16 in this game. I also wrote down my score predictions. I think right now the Chargers, the vibes there are very good with Jim Harbaugh. Everybody's happy. They get the 5 seed. I think it's also a boost to their confidence is that they had a game to win to improve their seeding. They did it because the Steelers lost. I right now Texans just feel like they're kind of begging for somebody, not begging, but they're at the end of the rope. I don't think their season extends past this week, and I think the CJ Stroud regression, I don't think it's all on him. I think Ben Stokes kind of dropped off as a play caller. I think the offensive line is really the main reason why he's fallen off. Especially the interior offensive line. The protection's terrible. Now, the Chargers don't have a dominant interior defensive line to probably expose that, but you do have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on the edge that could cause some problems as well. And I just think, as limited as I think the Chargers' weapons are, you probably would say that they have better receivers than the Texans at this point, just because the Texans are down to only Nico Collins.
No, yeah. Well, Ladd's a stud, but I think Nico's so good. But if Quentin Johnson's playing close like he did last week, then yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Just Stroud hasn't been playing well. Herbert has. You just can't lose this game. That's just my view on it. Like if you lose a game, then it better be that your defense crumbles. Herbert needs to step up in a dome, no weather bothering you, and go win this game. I think he will. I think he will
as well. And it kind of feels like it's the perfect timing for him to get his first career playoff win. Now, he should have done it a couple years ago, but this is the matchup you want. And the Texans, I think, have not been playing good football for about since, I don't know, week 3, week 4, week 5. They have not been playing well for months now. So I didn't think the Chargers' run game is going to be a key in this game. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have to play well for them to win this game. If they don't have a run game, the game could be even uglier than I think it's going to be. I think the over-under is 42.5, and we both have it hitting the under on it. So I do think it's going to be a defensive battle, but I'm going to trust Herbert over Stroud in this spot. Next game, Steelers at the Ravens. Ravens are a whopping 10-point favorite in this one, despite it being the third matchup between these two teams, despite them being division rivals. Kind of tells you where the Steelers are at this point right now. They've lost 4 straight games. They're averaging about 15, 16 points a game. They scored only 17 points against the Bengals this past week. Probably the worst defense in the league, you can make an argument for. Ravens, Zay Flowers is a long shot to play. I think that's a big storyline in this one. It could make this a bit closer than most people think. What say you? How do you see this one playing out?
I don't really see it that way. I think I'm expecting a really good Lamar game. He's played well this entire year. I think should be runner up for MVP. I still have my MVP as Josh Allen, but I feel pretty confident in Ravens here. I think there's a lot of teams coming in playoffs struggling, and Steelers are one of them. And I just don't It's really more about the defense in my eyes, because it's not that it's the defense's fault, but they're not playing that well, and then that makes Russ Wilson have to try to do so much more. And he's just not going to be capable, I think, against this Ravens defense, which I think has gotten better. I have it 30-17 Baltimore, and I don't really think about the Zay Flowers injury in this one too much, because you still got Bateman, you still have your tight ends, and every other game, like if they face Bills next week and there's no Zay Flowers, then that's big. But in this one, I don't really feel like it. Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. Lamar's Lamar. I feel pretty confident Ravens win this and cover the -10.
So I have Ravens winning, but I do have Steelers covering, and I don't think it's gonna be like a game where Ravens are struggling. But we've seen Lamar in the playoffs; he struggles a bit. So I'm waiting to see him because he, like last year, he struggled against the Chiefs in the AFC title game, and I know his stat line in the Texans game, he had 4 touchdowns, but that game was 10-3 at halftime, and he only threw for 155 yards in that one. Without Zay Flowers, their passing game could take a bit of a hit. He's clearly their number one receiver. I just don't think Steelers offense can muster enough to keep up the Ravens. I have Ravens 27-20 in this game. So it could be, a backdoor cover in this one. Maybe it's 27-17 and Steelers get in field goal range, laying the game to get into a one-possession game. But for me, the Ravens, I think, are clearly the better team. I don't really trust the Steelers offense, but it's a division rival. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I know the last time they played, it wasn't particularly close in Baltimore. And for another storyline in this one, I think Mike Tomlin, it reminds me of the Andy Reid situation in Philadelphia, where it kind of just ran its course. I mean, the Steelers have not won a playoff game since 2016. It's been 9 years since they've won a playoff game. So, for me, Mike Tomlin, I think he's a really good head coach. This is not saying that he's a bad coach, but I do think it's run its course there. And I could see if they lose this game, maybe they make a potential change of coach, or maybe they trade him to a team that needs a head coach.
A trade would be interesting. I still feel like it's tough because you're just not going to get a better head coach than Tomlin, most likely.
But we've been watching the same Steelers team for.
No, yeah, it is a problem.
It's been the same team.
A trade would be quite interesting. Maybe trade him to the Bears. If Tomlin's out there for like the Bears, I'm going to get Mike Tomlin. But yeah, I think it's ran its course. We're about the point, so I'd be okay if they got rid of him. Don't really know what their plan would be. You'd kind of have to have a whole revamp and
because right now their identity is defense. They don't really develop offensive line that well. I mean, I know they've invested some offensive line or some draft capital into the offensive line, but it's not that good of a unit. And the quarterback situation, every year they don't have a staple at quarterback. It's basically a 1-year proposition of let's get a veteran guy who's been there and done it before. And you don't like Kenny Pickett was a first round pick. I think most executives didn't really have him as a first-round talent. Most people had him as a third-round quarterback, second-round quarterback. So it's the Steelers, to me, if I'm them, I'm moving on from Mike Tomlin, probably trading him, and I'm just kind of revamping this thing a little bit.
I could see that. I mean, it'd be interesting if they just went full tilt and traded T.J. Watt, trade George Pickens, trade Tomlin, just went full rebuild, which would be you're in a division.
I mean, T.J. Watt's 30 now. I mean,
you're in a division with Burrow and Lamar and
exactly
the Bengals. If they fix some stuff, even though I don't think they really will, because they won't fix the defense, and I think they fired a good defensive coordinator, and it's not his fault that they didn't keep any of his good players. But you may have to just fully revamp. Maybe try to get an Arch Manning or something. I wouldn't dislike that.
Next game. So those are Saturday games. We will now talk about the 3 Sunday games. Broncos at the Bills. Bills are -9 in this spot. Bo Nix, rookie quarterback, making his playoff debut. The Broncos don't really have a run game. I am curious where you have this game. If you have it close, or do you think it's a landslide in Buffalo's favor?
I have it very similar. These first 3 games, I just don't think I have much. What's the word? I'm very confident in the winners of this first game. I have Bills -9. Yeah, I have 31-20 and a Broncos late touchdown. I could see this being a slaughter. I've been on the Broncos all year, which I'm proud of. I picked them to win their first game against Tampa. It's one of my proudest picks. In a bet I won some nice money on. But they lost to Bengals, who are not good, and it could have been worse. They did whoop the Chiefs backups, but it's good that they whooped the Chiefs backups. But this is the Bills. This is Josh Allen, who got to play one snap. They got to rest their starters. Bo Nix's first playoff game. A lot of these players' first playoff game. I guess I don't think Surtain's played in one. Bonito hasn't played in one. Sutton definitely has, right?
Sutton has.
I hope so.
Wait, actually.
I feel like he has. I feel like they had a playoff.
This is the first time they've made a playoff since 2015, right? I don't think he's been in a playoff game.
Let's look.
I think it's the first time they made a playoff since 2015.
Cortland Sutton. I'm trying to figure out what year he's drafted. He may not have been to the playoffs yet. My phone can load.
I'll pull it up right now.
I think
he was drafted in 2018.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he's been to the playoffs.
No.
So I'm just going to take Bills. I don't think it's that complicated.
No, I have the Bills in this one. I think it's going to be a blowout. One, the Broncos don't have a run game. And when you have a rookie quarterback making his playoff debut, you probably want to support him with a good run game. They have no run game to speak of. I don't care what they did last week. They kind of threw the kitchen sink, kind of revealed their entire – I think they kind of revealed a lot last week when they probably shouldn't. They probably couldn't have done that. Probably could have held back a little bit. Weapon-wise, I mean, Sutton's really good. I don't really trust anybody in that offense outside of Sutton in the passing game. And for me, they're very one-dimensional, just passing rookie quarterback. It's a recipe for a blowout. And in Buffalo, it's definitely going to be cold. I have 34-17. I don't think this game's going to be close at all. And I could see it being 14-0 after the first quarter, and the Bills are never looking back. So I think Broncos have a really good season, a lot of success, making the playoffs with a rookie quarterback 1 year after shifting from Russell Wilson, kind of proving you can still build a competitive roster despite eating a bunch of dead cap, which is what they did. So a very good season for them, but I do think the Bills are clearly the better team in this matchup.
Yeah, it's not that complicated. Broncos good season, but I'm expecting it comes to an end, and then they can focus on getting another offensive weapon, whether that's Tyler Warren in the draft or Ashton Genty or one of the receivers. They can basically go anywhere on offensive weapon-wise.
This next game, I have my pick in place, but I really am not confident either way in this game because I injuries to quarterbacks and the play of the teams in general, especially the Packers. Packers at the Eagles. Eagles are minus 4.5. The over/under is only 45.5, which is it's not bad, but it's also it's pretty comparable to these other games we've talked about.
So I think this is gonna be the closest game of playoffs, and I'm not confident in the winner. I do have Packers covering, and I have them winning. I put 24-23, but it's like I would not bet on it.
Wait. Do you say you have Packers winning?
Yeah.
Okay. You said Packers winning and covering. I know that's
well, they're plus 4.5, and so
if you haven't winning, of course you haven't covered.
But I think the main thing is I like them to cover. I'm not sure about them winning, but I am picking them to win. I just don't trust the Eagles. Who was it? I forgot who said that Jalen Hurts was like, if there's 5 stages in concussion protocol, he's like in between 4 and 5. So it's like he's going to be out of concussion protocol like 3 days before the game, 2 days before the game. He hasn't played in a couple weeks. I know the Packers haven't played well, but I kind of like their coach more than Nick Sirianni. I still like Jordan Love. They did lose Christian Watson, which does hurt, and I feel a little better if they had him. Just have that deep threat. But Jordan Love's played well in the playoffs. He's played well late in the season last year. He's been good in big moments. Not as great this year so far.
He's not been
late
good
in the season.
Down the stretch
not,
of the season.
Not this part of the season, but last season he did, and he was great in the playoffs. Whooped the Cowboys. Could have beaten San Fran. So I like him, but I want to bet on him. I would bet them to cover. And I like Romeo Dobbs' over on yards because I feel like he always does well in the playoffs. He's pretty nice, and Jaden Reed is slowed down.
No, their receiving core is really fallen off the past.
It's like it's not
weeks.
bad still because Wicks is still okay. Like they have a whole bunch of okay, but I think they may need a 1. But that could be why they don't win this game because they don't have a true 1. But I think this is I don't think it's the best game, but I think it's the closest game.
Yeah, I have Eagles 24-21, so I have the Packers covering. I've been saying it for a while. I just don't trust Jordan Love. And I'm very hesitant to label him as a star quarterback. I don't know if you have him as a star quarterback or where exactly you have him.
Yeah, I have him as a star.
I just think he played 10 really good games last year to end the regular season and played really well in the playoffs. But he's too inconsistent. The Eagles defense has improved vastly this season. And I made this pick with the assumption that Jalen Hurts is playing. So if he's not playing, I would definitely take the Packers in this one. But I'm making the pick on the assumption that he is going to play. I do think if the Eagles lose this game, I do think Sirianni will get fired. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, of better jobs opening up potentially. I think if the Eagles are one and done with this talent, with Saquon having this historic season, their roster is probably the best overall roster in the league right now because of It was probably the Lions before the year started, but their health has kind of fallen off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles probably have the best roster in the NFL. If you're one and done with this group of players, after being one and done last year and having a colossal, downfall last year as well to end the season, I do think Sirianni will be fired if they lose this game.
No, I could definitely see that as well. See if Packers can get a good run defense going. All of a sudden, because Saquon's just been so good. I still think he should have broke the record. You break the record
I think he got broken in half.
Yeah,
and if he got broken against his former team as well, I think that would have been even
That's just such a monumental O-line. It's also a thing about them. I didn't like that call. I think that's just something that you have to go for when you're that close, and you can do it in 3 carries because he's been breaking run and against his former team. It's just it was too perfect to not do it, and they didn't do it. But I'm very close on this game. Big Jalen Hurts moment too. I do think you're talking about Love. I still have him I don't think there's 7 quarterbacks, or I think there's there's 6 or 7 quarterbacks you can have above him, but I don't think there's many more.
Okay, so that may be true, but let's say he's 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Would you still I know that's top 10, of course. So top 10 in the NFL, 8th best quarterback in the world. You would say is a start, but when I don't know how to phrase this question, but he could be 8, but does that make him a star quarterback? And maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
He's a fringe star. I think he's in the same tier as Stroud and Baker. I don't think you can say that those two are much better than him.
I'm not saying at all. I don't think those two. I don't think Stroud took a step back. I wouldn't label him as a star yet. We could always have the Justin Herbert conversation. I think he's really good.
Oh yeah, Herbert's
better start. Than him. Yeah. But for me, these 2 quarterbacks in this game, I do not trust. From series to series, from game to game, I really don't trust them with their consistency, and that's the main pushback I have with these 2 quarterbacks.
But I just trust Jordan Love more. He's done in the playoffs. I know Jalen Hurts. That's why I was still high on him last year, because that Super Bowl he was fantastic. But these past 30 games of his or whatever, it has been probably not. Yeah, 30. It's just hasn't been that good. A lot of just chuck it to AJ Brown. AJ Brown had a problem, and he did have a really good game, I think, after that. But I think they played a bad team. I feel after that.
For me, Jalen Hurts he
has great weapons. His
stats should be much better. And I know he missed 2 games, but his stats should be the fact that he doesn't have a 4,000 passing yard season.
Yeah,
with this talent around him. And probably the best.
They also do run a lot. And he contributes a lot in the running game. So the 4,000 yard season, I'm not that big of a deal on, because
I would like to see at least 1.
But he runs a lot, and they run a lot. They run the ball a lot, even before Saquon. Swift.
Well, that's the reason I feel good about the Eagles in this one. If Jalen Hurts plays, is they can lean on the run game if need be. If he's rusty coming into this game, the Packers don't have a really good run defense, and the Eagles, their defense has improved. That's probably one of the most improved units in the league.
Definitely.
So I think it could cause the Packers offense struggles. And the Packers last week, they had a game where the Washington game was hanging in the balance. If they win that game, they're the 6th seed. And I know Washington ended up winning. But at that time, I know Jordan Love also got hurt.
And they lost Christian Watson. I think they were off a low from the Vikings game. I do think there's a shot that they just have fallen off. But I don't think it. But that was not great last week. But
no, especially losing the Bears,
it's a toss-up.
10 straight games.
It's a toss-up for me. If I had to bet my life, even though I'm picking Packers, I feel if bet my life on it, I'd probably take Eagles, but I do like
No,
Packers.
like I agree. This game for me it was the toughest game to pick of the slate.
Yeah, I agree.
Next game Sunday night, Commanders at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are favored by 3. This is another interesting game. Rookie quarterback go on the road. Buccaneers kind of fortunate to win last week, in my opinion. I think if a key penalty wasn't called, I think Saints kind of slowly win that game last week. How do you see this one playing out?
I feel like these teams are very similar in talent. I think quarterback is a near wash. Wide receiver ones are pretty close, even though I take Evans. I do think I think defenses aren't great, but I mean, I said near wash and quarterback, but I'm gonna take Baker's experience. He's won playoff games. He's a dog. Not saying I love Jay Daniels, but he's a rookie. And I'm gonna take the vet quarterback. I'm gonna take the receiver with 11,000-yard seasons. Bucky Irving, I think, is legit a top 10 running back in NFL. I think he's so good. But I do think it'll be close because I think Daniels dog. I think each defenses have some spunk, but just not a lot. So I do have Washington covering the +3. My prediction is 23-21. But I still I like Washington. I'm picking Washington to cover, but I still really like Tampa money line.
Yeah, I have Tampa winning this one as well. I have them barely covering, so I have 30-26. To be honest, the Commanders have been kind of carried by Jay Daniels this year. They're not the most talented team. Outside of McLaurin, you don't really have a receiver that you – I mean, Zacchaeus has been a key contributor for this team.
Yeah, that's wild.
He's not –
He's been good.
Yeah. And they have Jameson Crowder as well playing. I think the key to this game is Buccaneers' run defense. It's been really good this season. And Brian Robinson, I mean, he's not an efficient runner. So if they can keep Brian Robinson at bay, I do think that they'll be able to hold on. And I kind of trust their experience more in this spot. And I do think Commanders are heavily reliant on Jane Daniels. And, he's going to be Rookie of the Year. I think that's, not really a discussion at this point. But I do think that they do not have that much talent on this roster, in my opinion. There's some pieces there. Yeah. But it was really a team that was carried by a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, some good coaching, good quarterback play. They've been fun. But yeah, Tampa has the experience, and I'm just going to give Tampa the edge because that. And Baker I feel like he's not going to let them lose. I mean, I feel like in that Saints game, they're in trouble, and then he had that one play ran, and he kind of muscled up a little, and then I think he kind of got a spark in the offense because that's when the offense picked it up. Mm-hmm. I just trust Baker. I think as we're talking about Love, Stroud, Baker, and Jane Daniels are all in that same tier. But if I had to trust one to go win a playoff game right now, it's pretty easily Baker. And I mean, he's completely revamped his career. And I just trust him.
Last game, and this will be on Monday night, Vikings at the Rams. The line is now Vikings -1. It was Vikings -2.5. And we had this discussion during the Vikings and Lions game. We were each predicting what the line would be. I believe you said Vikings 5.5.
Yeah.
And I had Vikings 2.5, which that turned out to be right. But now it's all the way down to 1. So basically a pick 'em. People are probably playing money on the Rams. People are probably scared because of the Sam Darnold performance in essentially a playoff game against the Lions. Vikings, a 14-win team, favored only by 1 on the road against a team where they don't really have home field advantage. I do think it's pretty telling. I know where you're going to be picking this.
I'm picking Vikings. I have it 30-24 Vikings. It's just, I mean, I know Sam Darnold wasn't great, but they still had chances against the Lions, who were playing really well. And the week before against the Packers was kind of like a playoff game. And he's 33-43 for 377, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. I mean, and the Rams, I mean, I like the Rams' young defense. It's pretty nice. I know the Rams beat them earlier in the year, but the Rams, I mean, the Rams, after they beat the Bills, they beat San Fran 12-6. I mean, come on. They beat Jets 19-9. It's like, come on. They beat Arizona 13-9, where a ball got hit up in the air. If Trey McBride turned slightly earlier, if Kyler waits a tenth of a second longer, Arizona wins that game. The offense doesn't seem. It's just
no. They're the worst. They're one of the worst first quarter teams in the league. Like they don't score points in the first quarter.
It's very Stafford just throws a puka now. He's like, forgot about Cooper Kupp. I think that is one thing Stafford struggles with. He over-targets one person. Probably started with Calvin Johnson because why not? But he did a good job of balancing it that one year with when they won the Super Bowl, when they had Kupp, Woods, and Odell, but then Woods got hurt, and then Odell was doing great in the Super Bowl, but then he got hurt in the Super Bowl, but then Kupp was great when it was just him. But I don't trust them that much. I do think they should put up some points because I still like the veteran Stafford. You still have Sean McVay, but give me Vikings. Give me Vikings. Darnold had 2 playoff-like games. He played really well in one. He played really poor in the other. I think he'll balance it out, play well, win the game. They still have insane weapons over there. Brian Flores, still great DC, great head coach. Give me Vikings.
Yeah, I have Vikings as well. I have them winning 27-20. I do think that Darnold, I think it's the biggest storyline in this game. I think all the pressure's on Darnold in this one. He's really playing for over $100 million in guaranteed money if he can, play well and make a run in the playoffs. I think if they lose, it's inevitable that they're going to tag him. And I think just because they tag him doesn't necessarily mean that they'll keep him. Now, I don't think they'll reach out to teams, but I definitely think they'll entertain trade calls. And if they're blown away by a trade offer, I do think they'll trade him after tagging him and roll with J.J. McCarthy. And because right now the Vikings have everything in place to build around a rookie quarterback. So J.J. McCarthy, I know he's had the meniscus injury, so he hasn't been really able to practice and all that. But if he's shown that he's learning the playbook and he can place that into the playing field in the offseason, I do think there's a chance that they trade Darnold. If they lose this game, they're definitely tagging him. They will not sign him to a contract. But for me, I agree with you. The Rams are one-dimensional. Vikings, you can't run on them. And so now it's going to be a heavy Puka game plan for the Rams. I think this game, the first quarter and a half, is going to be monumental in the outcome of this game. If Rams play how they've been playing the first quarter or so, they could easily find themselves down by double digits early in the second quarter. So I think the first quarter and a half is where this game will be decided.
And then, this game is so impactful for the off season. It's probably the most impactful game for the off season before just the next impactful game will be the Vikings' next game if they win. Because if they face Lions and Darnold beats Lions, then it's probably keeping Darnold. But there are other factors. It sucks. It's sad to see the fires in California. They may have to play in Arizona. I don't think they will, but they may, and that just sucks. But something like that has to affect the players, and they live in Los Angeles, and some of them may be having to abandon their houses right now, and I think that can also play a role. And it sucks when stuff like that happens. That should not be affecting, a great game, but it may do it, and it sucks for the players, it sucks for everyone. And so that's just another thing where you just put that on top too. It's just I just don't see the Vikings losing this game. I feel very confident in the Vikings from on the field. Very unfortunate situations off the field. I like Vikings in this game. If they lose, I'd be very surprised. I would be genuinely. Still Bills, Ravens, Chargers losing. I'd be more surprised. Actually, no, not Chargers because they're the Chargers. And they screw stuff up all the time. But outside Bills and Ravens, if Vikings lose, I'd be legit. Just what?
Yeah, and Sam Darnold, I understand the trepidation of people. I think Vikings win, but could I see Darnold kind of choking this game? Absolutely. And last week was the biggest game of his career. And I know it's going to be a different atmosphere because the Lions, that was probably the biggest game in their franchise history outside of last year, trying to get a Super Bowl. But this is the first time that they are a 1 seed. So playing on the road in Detroit, hostile atmosphere, regardless of where this game is played, if it's played in LA or Arizona, you're going to I think you're going to have a 50-50 home field split of Vikings fans and Rams fans. So the atmosphere is going to be much different. The Lions blitzed on 60% of Sam Darnold's dropbacks, and he looked just completely overwhelmed. But I don't think the Rams have the defensive personnel to do that and get away with it. Their back end, their defense is not going to be able to hold Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison down like the Lions did.
And I bet Kevin O'Connell is going to be prepared for that. I still go back to that Packers game. He was fantastic, and that was a playoff game. And so he's 1-for-1 in his 2 biggest games of his career. That's okay. Players have bad games. Jared Goff, who may win the Super Bowl this
I
year.
know, but he
His
was
first Super
abysmal
Bowl.
last week.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like Jared Goff. People thought he was done. He had his biggest games of his career. He was terrible. And now look at him. He may be Super Bowl MVP. People have bad games. And maybe it was good for him to have a bad game because at some point he was going to have a bad game. And now you got it done. You'd rather be the 1 seed, but you got it done right before the playoffs. You're regrouping. You're facing a team that you should beat. I think he's going to have a pretty good game. And you still have Justin Jefferson. I think they're going to make stuff a little easier to start. I like him. I like him a lot.
If Vikings do lose, what do you think happens?
No, Darnold's not a Viking, but we'll see if they franchise and trade him or they just let him go. And I could see.
I don't think they're going to let him walk in free agency. I think they would tag and trade him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think if he loses, it's probably
because it's a weak quarterback class, and so
it's a quarterback
I don't
competition.
think you won't get a top 10 pick like the Steelers. We would talk about Steelers. Can Steelers offer whatever pick they're going to be? 20th overall pick, 20 and try getting Darnold.
I mean, you can see a team like maybe Tom Brady loves Sam Darnold. Even though I bet he won it. I feel like he's not a Tom Brady guy.
I think you won't get.
Maybe Ben Johnson would go somewhere and he says, "Get me Sam Darnold."
You won't get a first round pick if it's top 10, but maybe you get 2 seconds if it's outside. Top 10. Or maybe you get a 1. If I'm them, I would tag and trade him. For me, I think the only way he keeps a job next, to get him a big contract extension, is if he wins. If he goes to the NC title game, I think even if he wins this round and then loses next round, I don't see them giving him a long.
If he loses like a close battle to the Lions next week, where it's just like he plays well and they lose, I don't know. I think if he wins this game, it's like. See, I'm like 90% sure they win. If I think he wins this game, it's like 60-40 he stays. Because I still think J.J. McCarthy, if Aller does not go, he's younger than these quarterbacks who are going to the draft. I think he's younger, pretty sure.
He's 21, I believe.
Yeah, I don't even think he's 22 yet. So I still don't. If a team loved what if the Titans are sitting there just like, we don't really like these two, and then they trade back with like the Giants or something. They're just someone loves Shador Cam, and then Titans go trade for him. I think there's a lot of possibilities, and that's why tonight's college football playoff game is big, because Aller playing fantastic could change the entire draft. It could change what the Vikings are doing. And then Monday night, if Sam Darnold is great, that changes stuff. He's bad, that changes. It's a lot of interesting stuff.
And I think they keep JJ McCarthy regardless. That's kind of where I stand right now. But I do think Seattle.
Bowl, I think
Seattle will be a very interesting spot with JJ. I think.
Yeah,
because
Seattle would be.
I like them rolling with Geno Smith again next year. It's just the same end product. He has hit his ceiling. So I think there's a lot of moving parts potentially from the outcomes of these games. Like Sirianni could be out. We'll see what happens to the Vikings. We didn't even talk about the Rams, really. I mean, this is probably Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Sean McVay's last game together if they lose.
No, yeah, that's it. Very well could. And then Sean McVay could go get Sam Darnold or JJ or whatever, or maybe Sean McVay goes into the booth. And
I think Sean McVay stays.
He almost went to the booth after winning the Super Bowl. I think he could go to the booth and then come back in a couple years. I think it's all out there. It's all out there, and I think we did not touch on that, and that is a very interesting storyline that we could see as well. Because then Stafford can become a 1-year rental at places like a Pittsburgh, probably not a Seattle. Yeah, that's just another quarterback who'd be out there.
Yep. Well, that will do it for our episode this week. Some college football games tonight and tomorrow night. I think we both have bets on. I know I have bets on Penn State and Ohio
I have just
State
Penn State money line in a parlay.
Okay. I think I got Ohio State like a minus 230 or something like that. So not the best value, but I don't see them losing to Texas. So hopefully those bets hit. Luke and I, since our last recording, we did win our Dynasty Fantasy League, which paid out a lot, and I also won another parlay that was pretty nice money. So we've been rolling in the money of late, and hopefully that continues.
We're not rich.
Well, no. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying.
But it's a nice little boost.
Yeah. But that will do it for our episode this week. We'll be back next week with our wild card reactions and a breakdown of those games. So until then, make sure to follow the channel, subscribe, and we also post on Spotify as well.
Peace.